Should we put it? Maybe we can keep it already. Awesome.
Yo, I'm on the mic.
And that is awesome because I don't know this. I think it mutes when you throw it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So you can actually really throw it. You can even kick it.
So we're live. The camera is live. Yep, we're live. We're streaming. That's good.
Great.
Check
What's
that.
the name?
That's very visible. Yes.
Camera.
Yeah. So what we could do is just go to.
Can we shut down the camera and open it again?
Yeah, I was thinking to go to.
I'm not seeing anything on the live stream.
No, because
we're not live?
it should be live. Just check that.
But it will still take 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's saying it will start.
Kameran kaukarilla back tai exit.
Camera? Where is camera? Where?
Tällainen. Kaukari on varmasti taakan laatikossa. Projector.
That seems about right.
Yep. Back ja exit.
Okay, I'm already seeing the live feed, I guess. That's cool. Have you already set up? Yeah.
Is this the camera?
It doesn't have.
Zoom.
It's like a camera. There's nothing.
It should be back or exit.
No, this is not it. Well, there's a camera select. There's a camera select.
No, it should be the camera. It has its own remote.
This one.
Can you
Camera
just call?
select. I'm not sure. Select camera 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
If you do go up and down and see if the camera actually goes up here. I put this thing and doesn't seem to be doing anything, so we're stuck with that.
Can you call Tuomo? Maybe that's the way to go.
Otherwise we're good to go.
Yeah.
Is everything okay? You're ready to go in like 5 minutes?
There's still that one thing here.
Oh, okay.
Trying to get.
You have the remote?
Do you have to turn it?
Eikö se ole se pieni läpispää, se Logitech se kamera? Ei oo se. Tumman harmaa.
Hey, excuse me. We'll be starting shortly, so if you want to go grab a beer or some food, now would be a good opportunity before we start the presentations.
Makes me feel terribly guilty because I was getting these emails from people who were kind of like depressed that they didn't get it.
Yes, we have always
I think expected it's there's all kinds of people here and they don't all know about Future.
We'll have a couple of slides here, like 5 minutes.
That means you have been filming for another.
Yeah, exactly. I'm free
Start your comedy styles.
Alright, my name is Ronnie. I want to tell you a little bit about my childhood.
Yeah, so what was on the news? Did you hear about this? give a little introduction about what this web dev is logistics. We are handing over to you, and after that your talk will go with the logistics on this beers and stuff like this. We have a bunch of convoluted notes, so everything should be covered.
Totta sieltä. Kiitos koutsauksesta. Anteeksi.
Oh, it's here. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, there's one more over there as well. Normal beer.
Okay guys, so let's get this show on the road. Okay, let's just get all the key personnel over here pretty fast. Okay, so hey, really nice to see all of you here. This is our 9th Web Dev and Sausages event. We organize this, or our goal is to organize these high quality web dev themed and sausage-themed event here in Tampere, and we're really happy to see all of you here. First of all, I'd like to give a huge shout out to our fantastic sponsor, Futuris, which have been really, really helpful and proactive and everything in here, organizing this event. Yeah, please. And yeah, without further ado, I'd like to invite Philip from Futuris to say a few words.
Yeah, hey everybody. Great that so many of you came. Actually, we were a bit afraid that, hey, organize everything and nobody comes. So, yeah, I was asked to have a quick 5 minutes presentation about Futuris. So, what is Futuris, and maybe also my personal point of view in there. So, what is Futuris? Basically, we are founded in 2000. We have plus 1,000 people currently with 30 different nationalities, and even more. Even in this office, we have 5 different nationalities, which I personally really like because it brings a lot of variety into our work. Then we have offices all over Europe, in London, Munich, Stockholm, and now also one more in Oslo. All right. That's what it is. No more animations now. So what do we do? Well, mainly we are doing design, development, data science, and advisory. And for everybody, I personally, before I came, I didn't know really what advisory means, but we do culture and tech advisory, which is basically kind of a high-level, like company-wide, like consultants, basically. So we try to cover all of these together and put them all under one roof to deliver value for our customers, basically. But let's go, because this office is Tribe Tammerfors. So maybe I can explain a bit more about my personal feelings here, how I came. I started 1.5 years ago, and I'm originally from Germany. So I met a lot of awesome people here. I must say we are currently 75 plus around-ish people. And for me personally, it has been a great time here because I have been, people are really open, really nice. We have a lot of different events. We can hang out on Fridays afterwards, have a beer here. We have LAN parties together. We have game nights. Just 2 weeks ago, I think we had a Wild West game night. Didn't even know there are so many Wild West board games. So really, really nice stuff, and then also very inclusive. I don't know how many foreigners are under you, but for me, I feel really welcome because my Finnish is not that good, and people come, and when I come to the kitchen and they talk about private things and they switch to English right away, even though they don't need to. So I personally feel very included here. I want to talk also about some really nice things I think Futuris offers to its employees. We have the chili card. I think you have seen that maybe around. So these are basically projects where you can apply and you can, which should support the community you live in. And Futuris gives you possibilities to spend time in it or provides you advisory for it. So you can apply for these funds, which I personally really like. And then there's the SPICE program, which is one of the awesome things I personally do a lot. It gives you for private hobby projects. They allow you to put hours into it, so they pay you a little bit in your free time for programming, which I anyway sometimes do. And then like if you want to realize small projects yourself, like I always wanted to do something like that. And now I thought like, okay, yeah, they gave me, I could block some hours. So there are a lot of interesting things going on and you can take care of them. So a little bit of what we do, maybe what clients we work with. We have small and big clients. We have big clients, E.ON in Germany. We have Kesko here in Finland. We have SAS in Stockholm. So, but also smaller clients. So it's like varies a lot. And I don't know if you have, you probably have seen the Ruokonen mobile app. I like it because of the recipes. Thanks. The Nokian tires, which is my personal favorite. I have seen that starting, and it has like, I don't know if you have heard about it, like you drive over it and your tires get scanned and they suggest you, hey, you should really change it or something like that. And I really like that project because it was like software and hardware combined, so really nice stuff. And then also E.ON, like as a big customer in Germany, where we're doing basically their renewable energy business, but also advisory, culture advisory, and they're trying to change certain things in their organization. Yeah, we are hiring, so if you're interested, if you like something or found something interesting, you want to hear more, please just come to me or to any of us and talk to us. And yeah, I'm really happy to or if you just want to talk about web development, or if you want to talk about the weather, I don't know, just anyway, come to me. It would be nice to get to know you guys. And one last thing, because I think you guys know the Futurist webpage, but this one is especially for Tampere. It shows you basically the people promise, and go there if you think about maybe. Okay, that's it from my side. Now enjoy, have a good time, and I hope you enjoy the presentations.
Okay, thank you, Philip. So before we get on to our fantastic presentation, just a few words about my favorite topic, which is me, or rather us. So I was gonna do this in the beginning, but I kind of panicked and handed the mic off to Philip maybe a little bit too soon. Anyway, like I was saying, Web Dev and Sausages is an open to everyone event on web development and sausages, and great talks and good company, and we're really happy that everyone came. We are organized, or Web Dev and Sausages is organized by us three, and hence if you have anything to ask during this evening, you can come to us. So over in this right corner, left from your perspective, we have Leo Melin, and in the center, Rick. My name is Juhani, and let's go over the logistics before we get on to Asta's talk. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit here. Drinks, of course. All the drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, you can find in the far left corner. Bathrooms in the far right, over by the, what do you call this? Vaatenaulakko. If you feel the need to smoke a cigarette, you can do that by going out. First go down the bottom floor and then head out. Then you will see some trash cans, maybe, behind the bikes, I was told. That's where you can smoke, if you want to. So, we have a great system for when you need to fill up on your drinks to make sure that we don't get any waste. So, Richard will demonstrate.
Yes. All right, so this actually goes back to the last, was like a legendary event, but Juhani and I were cleaning up. Let me tell you, we'd already drank a lot of beer, but the thing was there was this really good, like, was it Fat Lizard beer? And, you know, we don't like to waste. And we were going around, we were picking up cans, and they were like, I mean, like, whoa, 80% full. So I was like, I'm not gonna throw that away. Oh God, another one. I'm not gonna throw that away. So I think I drank like an extra, I don't know, 20 half cans of beer, and God knows what kind of diseases. But, I mean, I just don't really like waste. But it kind of raised the question for both Juhani and I, is like, why are not people drinking just a little bit and then getting another? So here's the new system, we're not going to enforce it, we're not going to be fascist, but I'll demonstrate what I would like you to do tonight. I'd like you to take your beer, and I'd like you to drink all of it. Then you take that one and you throw it in the trash and you get another. And you drink that and you just keep going like that recursively forever. All right, so that was just a little encouragement to help us clean up so Juhani and I are not here getting super pissed until 3 in the morning. Is there anything else?
Yeah. So, web dev and sausages would be possible, or I mean, it probably would be possible, but it would be pretty lame without sponsors. It would be just us 3 at our place. So, I would like to thank Maku Brewing, actually, who provided us with a few cases of beer for the low price of this endorsement. low price. And anyway, we are always looking for sponsors for future events, and if you feel that your company, or if you have the money to spare, then maybe just you personally would like to sponsor, then you can approach me or Rick or Leo. Please let us know. I think that was everything. So what I'd like to now ask is for Asta to come and give the maybe most interesting titled speech in web dev and sausages history, Unknown Unknown. Hi. Yes.
Joo, mitkä spiivat? Okay, does this work? Apparently, yes. Okay, so hello, my name is Asta Suokas and I work here at Futurist, so welcome also from my behalf. Today I'm going to talk to you about the unknown unknown. First part of the presentation is going to be about what is the unknown unknown and why it's really difficult for us to take it into account in our everyday life. And then the second part is going to be about how the unknown unknown hit us in production. So that's going to be the web development part of my presentation. Donald Rumsfeld put it quite nicely. There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know. And it is the latter category that tend to be the difficult ones. So that's quite a tongue twister, so let's go through these with some examples. What's a known known? For example, I know that the capital of Finland is Helsinki. That's quite easy. I know that I don't know what's the capital of Namibia. That's also easy to know. But what about unknown unknown? Take a moment to think about how well do you know how bicycles work? Okay. This kind of doodle was presented to students in the United States, and they were asked to fill this drawing so that the bike would be functional. And the results were various. Some actually managed to draw a functioning bicycle, but quite many did really drastic mistakes, like put the pedals in the front tire or chains going from the back tire to front tire, so it would be really difficult to ride the bike. It's not really necessarily surprising that not everyone were able to draw it flawlessly. But what was interesting that before they had to complete this drawing, they were asked to rate on a scale from like 1 to 10 how well they think they know how bikes function. And surprisingly, most of them rated that, yes, I do know quite well how bikes function. And then when they were presented the results of, hey, you draw the chain from the back tire to the front tire, and how do you think it's going to work? Like, what happens when you turn the bike? And yeah, that won't work. So for them, do they know how bikes function was an unknown. It's usually quite easy to know whether we know something when it comes to trivia, like what's the capital of some place. But when it comes to physical events or more complex things like politics, then it becomes a bit more tricky. The things are familiar to us, we are exposed to them, but we don't necessarily always think through and through how much we know about them. Why is this? One theory for this is presented by Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast and Slow. And he states that our thinking... Okay. He states that our thinking consists of two systems, System 1 and 2. System 1 is automatic. It requires very little effort. It doesn't really understand logic or statistics. It acts on impulses and habits and makes sense of the world through associations and pattern matching. System 2, on the other hand, requires attention. Its operations are effortful. System 2 can follow rules, and it can make deliberate choices between options. But one of its main characteristics is laziness, and this is what makes things interesting. But again, let's go through some examples of where System 1 and System 2 are involved. Where System 1 is involved is an object further than another. Turn towards a sudden noise. Detect emotions in someone's speech. What is 2 plus 2? These are things that you can solve automatically. You don't require any kind of effort to know the answer to these or for these to happen. Then examples of System 2. Find a woman with white hair. Focus on clowns in circus. Walk faster than you're used to for a long time. Or count how many times the letter A is on this slide. All of these require conscious attention to the task, and they require effort. There are different types of effort, such as cognitive, physical, and emotional. And all of those, at least partially, take from the same resource pool. Consider, for example, that you're running at a high speed and someone asks you, what's 24 times 17? You probably need to stop so that you can do the calculation. It's really difficult to do physical activity and then cognitive activity at the same time. And the division between Systems 1 and 2 is not completely static. Let's consider, for example, driving a car. When you're learning it for the first time, it's very much a task of System 2. It requires a lot of effort and conscious attention, like press the pedal and move the gear and look left, and it's really exhausting. But once you get used to it and have more experience on it, then when you're driving on a familiar route with low traffic, it's more of task of system 1. It becomes automated. You don't really have to put that much effort or attention to it. Perhaps a bit of attention is always good to have in the traffic, but then even when you're professional in it, then when you're going on an unknown route or driving to a place where you don't exactly know where it is or it's a big traffic, then again, system 2 kicks more in. Both of systems 1 and 2 are needed, and system 1 is usually quite good at what it does. But there are some cases where it's really prone to making errors. And let's go through this again with some examples. A bat and a ball together cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? For this question, your system 1 is usually shouting, I know, it's 10 cents. That's the intuitive answer, and if you're not paying that much attention, your system 2 will accept it as it is. Okay, yeah, 10 cents, let's go with that. But that's obviously wrong. If it was 10 cents, then the bat would cost $1.10 and the total amount would be $1.20. So it seems intuitive in the beginning, but then when you start actually calculating it, you realize it's wrong. But since it's so seemingly simple riddle, your system 2 really doesn't want to bother starting to do the calculation. Previously, I asked you to quickly think about how well you know bikes. Which system do you think you used? Did you pick up the intuitive answer that system 1 provided you? Or did your system 2 kick in and did you really start to think about how do bicycles work and what do I need to know in order to answer this? And do I know how the power shifting happens in bicycles? Most likely not. It can be that the intuitive answer that came to your mind, it can be perfectly fine, but it isn't always. Daniela Kahneman presented a big list of cognitive biases and fallacies that happen between system 1 and 2. And one of them that's most linked to the unknown unknown is called USIATI. Don't really know how to pronounce the acronym, but it comes from what you see is all there is. So he claims that the success of system 1 is based on a story quality that system 1 comes up with, not the story completeness. And that system 1 is ignorant to the quality and quantity of the information. So as long as it produces coherent story, it's quite happy with it. For example, if you're asked, will person X become a good leader? Quite many of us then start to bring some images to their mind, like what's person X like, and what are the first things that come to your mind, and are those qualities such that you associate them with being a good leader? If those are, then you're tempted to answer yes. And you won't bother to think like, what do I need to know in order to form an opinion? Do I need to know his work history? Do I know what his passions are? Or what are the things that I need to know so that I can make a good decision? Usually you're just tempted to come up with a couple of associations, and if those seem nice, then you say, oh, yeah, he'll be a good leader, or no, he won't be. High confidence in our competence is achieved by ignoring what we don't know. And we use the information we have as if it were the only information there is. So he states that ignorance helps us to live in a complex world. So it helps us to be confident in our daily life and helps us to go about everyday life like without having to worry, like, do I know everything that I need to know? How can we overcome this? Kahneman himself is quite pessimistic, saying that we can't. It's in our DNA, we're born that way, and there's not much we can do about it. But at least when the stakes are high and you need to make a big decision, then you can at least assess the amount of information you have. Is the evidence complete? Can we find some contradicting evidence? assess the accuracy of the information. Is the evidence we have, is it somehow biased? Is it inconclusive? Have we only heard one side of the story? You can consider what else we would need to find out in order to have a more complete picture of the situation. In case of a project, you can do a pre-mortem, which means that, for example, in the beginning of project, you can gather a group of individuals and then start to think, okay, we're now a year from the project start and the project was an utter disaster. What has happened along the way to make it a disaster? And as a company, you can hire skeptic people. So don't be fooled by hiring only overconfident people. That's quite easy to do. It's usually really easy to fall in love with people who are confident and present that, hey, I know this. But it's good to have also people who are skeptic in the group. So what does this have to do with web development? Nothing and everything. So let's next go to the next part, how the unknown hits us. Let's go through some terminology first to make sure everyone can follow the presentation. What's a domain? Domains are used to identify internet resources, for example, example.com or google.com. There are root domains. Root domain, apex domain, and naked domain, they all mean the same thing. And I might use all of these in my presentation. I try to stick with root domain, but in case I use those other terms, they just mean the same thing. Root domains are the ones that are registered. And then you can, in addition to the root domain, you can define yourself some subdomains. Canonical URL is one thing I'm going to be using. One resource can have many URLs, so the same resource can be fetched from different URLs. Usually it's good to optimize search engines. It's good to define a canonical URL, so define one URL that is the one that search engines are going to be using, and perhaps also redirect from the other URLs to the canonical URL. A certificate is a small file that binds a cryptographic key to organization's details, and it's used to secure connection between browser and a host. And a wildcard certificate is something that you can use for covering multiple subdomains with one certificate. Heroku is a platform as a service that can be used for building, running, and operating applications in the cloud. So here in Futuris, I work in a team called FutuCare. Our job is to make live systems evolve. That means we mainly work with systems that are in production, and they don't anymore require a full project team to work on them. Quite often they are handed over to us at some point. So we haven't ourselves been involved in building them up. We had a requirement from customer to update a certificate for one of these services. It was expiring, so we thought that it shouldn't be a big deal. Our setup was quite simple. The service was hosted in Heroku. We used www subdomain as the canonical URL of the service. All of the requests were redirected to the secure connection of the canonical URL. We had previously had multiple subdomains in use, such as like beta.domain.fi and such, but we had removed them, and we were left with the root domain and the www subdomain. And previously there had been a wildcard certificate in use because of the multiple subdomains, but now we consider that a regular certificate should be enough. It should cover the root domain and the subdomain that we were using. We did everything required. We created a file for requesting the certificate, and the client IT delivered to certificate authority, and we received the certificate. We installed it to Heroku, tested that the subdomain and root domain both work okay, and we were happy. Yeah, everything went well, just as we expected. Then comes the day when the certificate expires, and the client IT informs us that the root domain uses expired certificate. We're like, what's going on? We tested these, both work, both end up in the www subdomain. They use the secure connection and use the new certificate. What's going on? Is it some caching issue? Quite quickly then we realized that actually we weren't really defining the protocol when we wrote the URL to browser. We only define like, yeah, go to domain.fi. And we learned that, for example, in Chrome, if you don't explicitly define what protocol to use, Chrome uses HTTP then, so it's the non-secure version. It's easy to miss out because quite many sites then redirect you to a secure version of the site. And if you don't look at some developer tools, you won't notice it. You'll just notice that I wrote the domain.fi and then suddenly I'm in the secure version of it. So probably it was you easily end up thinking that Chrome used the secure connection automatically, but it doesn't. And then we noticed that the one highlighted in green was the one not working. So if you explicitly defined HTTPS domain.fi, then the old certificate kept coming. So what's the solution? How can we fix it? Well, our first immediate reaction was, should we change the certificate type? I think that was the only thing that we noticed that was different from the previous one. We previously had a wildcard certificate, and now we have a regular one. It shouldn't require a wildcard certificate, but that's the only thing that we changed. So let's try changing that. Well, it didn't help. Next, we looked up, should we update the redirect rules? So our code has some redirect rules that directed the traffic to the canonical URL. But also, that didn't work. And of course, it felt like it shouldn't require any updates since it has worked like this before. And then next, we looked at maybe it's something related to domain configuration. So domains are configured with DNS records. DNS is a domain name system, so it's sort of like a telephone book of the internet. So it maps URLs to IPs. There are different types of DNS records. An A record maps a name to an IP. A CNAME record maps a name to a name. And then alias or a name record maps a name to a name. The difference between alias and a CNAME is that the CNAME cannot be used with a root domain. It can be used only with the subdomains. We checked out how our own setup looks like this, and we noticed that we have a record for the root domain, so it's pointing to an IP, and then we had a CNAME for the subdomain. We went to look for Heroku's documentation, which, as usually, is really good and detailed. So it stated that because Heroku uses dynamic IP addresses, a CNAME record cannot be used for the root domain. So it requires an alias or a name record. And it also stated that some DNS providers provide only A records, and that won't work because Heroku doesn't provide static IPs. Then we were like, yeah, but still this has worked like this before. What's wrong? But maybe we can change the configuration. So we wrote to the DNS provider and asked, like, hey, do you provide alias or a name records for the root domain? And well, they answered no. Time to ask for help. So we asked in our company flow doc, like this is our setup, and we're kind of baffled, like, what's going on? Anyone can give us a hand? Quite quickly we saw this comment, so So if I know correctly, at least in the past, the Apex domain used some random EC2 machine for redirecting the traffic. Not sure if this is still the case. So EC2 is it comes from Elastic Compute Cloud. It's a service from Amazon. And another comment. Okay, so domain.fi seems to be EC2 something something something. This could be it. And quite quickly we started also having vague recollections like, okay, actually when this project was onboarded to us, the guy giving us the introduction, I think he may have mentioned that there might be some random EC2 machine that could cause you some trouble later on. Well, surprise, surprise, it did. Yeah. Then we started to look like, okay, is it in Fury's account? Is it in the customer account? Or is it in another third-party account which initially set this thing up? Fortunately, it was in the customer account, so we were able to get access to seeing the machine, but we couldn't log into it because nobody knew the credentials for logging into the machine. But we were able to set up a new EC2 machine and then shut down the old one and give the new one the same IP that had been used in before. So let's go through with some pictures what we thought that was happening and what was actually happening and why it worked like it worked. So these were the pieces that we thought there were. Like we thought that when you write domain.fi in the browser, then you get an IP, and that we thought that that IP points to Heroku. Then Heroku returns the certificate and gives you a redirect to the canonical URL, and again we ask from the DNS, where is this, and then you do another request to Heroku. And we were really baffled, like, we updated the certificate to Heroku, why is it not coming from there each and every time? But the actual situation was like this. So again, you write the domain.fi and get an IP, but then the next request goes to the EC2 machine, and it was the red arrow part that was still returning the old certificate, since we didn't know that we needed to update it also to the machine that we were unaware of. And why it worked when we only wrote domain.fi without defining the protocol is because then the red arrow part never happens. So when we did an HTTP request to the EC2 machine, it only did the redirect. So in that case, the EC2 machine didn't return any certificate, and we got the certificate only from Heroku. So that's why we thought initially that it worked when it didn't. So as what you see is all there is, would state that we kept looking on the things that we knew existed. We kept looking to Heroku source code and DNS configuration and thought that there's something that we need to do to one of these to make it work. Even though our mind was saying, like, all of these have worked like this before, there shouldn't be any need to change it, but still let's try to change some of these. And we knew that the certificate kept coming from somewhere, even though we had removed it from Heroku, but still we really couldn't figure out why it kept coming. And for others to find out this, like when we asked for help, it took like 5 minutes to get the answer that your IP is pointing to EC2 machine. It requires 2 commands from the command line. So it's not really like any kind of scientific work that's required to solve it. But still, we were so fixed on the things that we knew that we couldn't grasp the idea that there could be something outside of these. And for people who couldn't access source code or Heroku, it was easier for them to start using other methods to find out what's going on. So what did we learn? I think the key thing is, like, when somebody says something like this might be a problem in the future, then please pay more attention to understanding what he's saying and document it somehow and not just ignore it. And we also updated the guideline that we have for onboarding projects to include things like document how certificates are handled and how domain configuration is done for the service. And of course, we learned quite a lot about Heroku and domain configuration and certificates and such. But still, we paid some price doing it. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, so questions. Really? I don't get to throw anyone this. Well then, oh, okay.
So how much the ball costs?
5 cents.
Okay.
Anything more? That was.
First, I thought you were going to ask, like, how much did this cost to you? Like, how angry was the client?
How long did it took you to find out from the problem to the solution?
I think in time it took like. We heard about the problem on Monday and it was solved on Tuesday. We didn't work on it full time all the time. We consider that it's not like it needs to be solved quickly. But on the other hand, we consider that the effect is still rather minor because quite many users don't really browse to the site by typing https:/domain.fi. You just usually write the domain.fi and that will work. And since you're always redirected to the canonical URL, which worked, like if you create bookmarks, those would very likely be for the canonical URL. And it wasn't any kind of like business critical service to our client. So that's why it was a top priority, but not something that we would like immediately push the red button and alert the whole company, like, please help us. But from the moment we asked for help, it then was like 2 hours to solve it.
Okay, we have a question over
there.
Yeah.
One question. Did you think about changing the configuration out of that EC2 machine that was kind of like random, and or was it just the solution to make that domain redirect thing work?
Yeah. So we haven't changed it since the future of the service is a bit unknown. So if we knew that it was going to be something that's going to last for years, then we might reconsider like what the infrastructure should look like. But at the moment, we're maintaining with a rather small bandwidth, so it makes more sense just to like monitor that things are staying as they are.
Yeah.
Okay, one more.
Yeah, just a hint for someone who's having a similar problem, but not the same solution. If you haven't heard of split brain DNS, good, but sometimes the clients have their own DNS servers, and they have hard-coded some IP addresses there. So everything seems to work when you look outside their IP, outside their network, but they can't access the server because it still points to the old EC2 server or whatever, and they do that, and that's it's hard for them to come out of the situation. So it's sometimes a thing you just have to live with, but I hope you don't have to.
Sounds like you have a personal trauma.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let's hear it for Asta.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so let's have a short 5-minute break for refueling, and after that we'll return with Tuomo and Draft.js.
sulla niinku swagin kello. Futuri swagin. Oliko semmonen coaster? Ei oo futur swagia. Me voidaan vielä tehdään meidän virallinen luovu. Etsit tässä. Juu.
There's also a presentation.
This unknown thing, you know, so for the website.
So, do you want something over?
If it's fast, is it too hard now to read it back, at least like the title? I can show you the video if you like it.
Yeah, that's
And the presentation was great, and I've read the first two. I'm not a web developer at all, but this thinking fast and slow, right? I mean, that's
it's really eye-opening.
Yeah,
Onko se seuraava sitten? Tervetuloa.
Kaikille tuntematon koskee pikkuhiljaa pienenee. Mitä tietoisempi olet ja niitä yhtenäisesti käskyksiä itselään itsestään. Se laittaa vielä. Matkalaulua.
Kaikki pienellä issuksilla. Se on thank God.
YK.
Is it Friday?
You should remind people there's a lot of these.
Yeah.
I think any of things so that they can take this. Tuomo, don't forget your cool cup. Yeah.
Oliko se mistä kotoisin? Sä et ollut Tampereella?
Ei,
Seinäjoella. Joo. Silleen kohta kun palaa porukat tänne, niin tehdään silleen, että Lahti jakaa toi Astalle sen kamppeet, niin jaetaan nopsaa sille sen swagi tässä, sit mä esittelen sut ja...
Onko se Mirra vai tekstejä?
Varmaan ei ihan miten vaan. Ai sitten jos sulla se varmaan eksperimentaa vähän alueesta. Pistä vaan näkyviin jo. Se näkyy vissiin toi näyttö siinä streamissä. Mä luulen, että siis se joka näkyy tässä salassa, pitäisi näkyä siinä myös.
Philip has something for the two speakers now coming. Asta didn't want one because she's but so I guess she's going to bring Tuomo and then this one. So maybe after Tuomo's speech.
Yeah. Joo,
Odotat sen aikaa, että saadaan porukka kanssa.
Kyllä. Okay, so we'll be continuing soon. If you could start making your way towards the stage, please.
Halo. Yes.
Näkyykö se siinä striimissä? Joo, justiin tuo. Yes.
Okay, so we'll be continuing in just a minute. So if you want to follow the next presentation, please make your way. Yeah.
Mitä pystytkö muuten pari kuvaa vaikka?
Joo, mä Okay, let's carry on. First one thing that we almost forgot, but we'd like, well, we have a tradition here of awarding our, or rather rewarding our speakers with some interesting swag. Now, Asta, please. This is for you.
Thank you.
Okay, and talking about swag, actually, you may have noticed that all around the Futurist office there are all sorts of cool stickers and stuff. And these, especially, these bamboo fiber cups, like a Tupperware presentation. But web dev and sausages come in 2 colors. These are for you, so please take one. They are by the counter on a table there. Really nice. And okay, next to talk about Draft.js, we have...
Yeah, kyllä.
Important check. Tuomo, straight from Seinäjoki.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Tuomo Kankaanpää. I work in Jakamo, and I'm going to talk a little bit about rich text editing in React with Draft.js. First of all, how many of you have done some rich text editing in their projects? Okay, quite a few. How many of you have heard about Draft.js? Have some of you used Draft.js? Okay, at least one. Yeah, but let's go right in. What is Draft.js? So in short, it's a framework for building rich text editors in React, and it was originally created as an internal tool or project in Facebook. They needed some tool for their rich text editing features like comments and status updates and that kind of stuff, so they came up with Draft.js, and they open sourced it in 2016. And how does it work then? Well, first of all, the state and the representation of the editor are separated. If you take, for example, a WordPress editor, in WordPress you type in your text and, for example, add a header in it. You get this, for example, h1 tag inside the content of the editor. And when you save that content to a database or wherever, that h1 tag goes into the database also. So there the state and the representation are mixed. But in Draft.js, this is done a little bit differently, and we will come to that in just a second. Also, every state update triggers a re-render of the editor, so it's basic React component. And this way, the editor state is always in sync with the representation of the editor. And Draft.js uses an object called editor state to handle the whole state of the editor. It's a top-level state object for the editor. It's an immutable record that represents the entire state of the draft editor. So basically it's a snapshot of the whole editor or the state of the editor. And it includes the current text content state, the current selection state, the fully decorated representation of the contents, and also undo redo stack, which is comprised of content state objects. And content state objects, they are a bit different. They are also immutable records, but they represent the entire contents of the editor. So text and all the styles, and also something called entity ranges. And also inside content state there is 2 selection states, one for before and one for after the rendering of the contents. And you most often use the content state object with this editor state get current content function call. That gives you the content state currently being rendered in the editor. And here is a little illustration of what we just talked about. So the editor state has the content state and undo redo stack in it, and inside the content state there is the editor contents and the 2 selection states. Okay, so of course we want to export the state also out of the editor so we can save it for later use also. So Draft.js comes with two methods, convert to raw and convert from raw, that enable this. So with convert to raw, you can basically take your content state object and convert it to plain JSON. And you can then save that JSON, for example, to a database. And then with convert from raw, you can take the plain JSON and convert it to a content state object that you can then initialize your editor with. And I really like this part because it gives a clear structure for the editor state. So let's look a few examples of the Draft.js editor setups. So here we have a very simple editor, or React component. So first we import the editor and editor state from the Draft.js. Then we define the component state. We define the editor state in it. And this is important if you are making an editor with no content, so it's empty. You should make it with the editor state create empty function call, because well, you could think that maybe it could be null or empty string or empty object, but because the editor component works as a controlled input, it it expects that the editor state is a type of or valid editor state object. So that's why it's important to create it like this. And then we also define the on-change handler for the component. And at last we render the editor component with the editor state and the on-change handler. And well, this is what we get from that. It's not too exciting looking yet, so it's basically looks like a plain text field. But what's more exciting is the state of it. So here is the convert to raw, the content state converted to plain JSON. So we get this array of blocks, and all these, there is 3 blocks here, and every block is for the one text block in the editor. So whenever we press enter for a new line, we get another text block. And here we have a key, which is a randomly generated value by Draft that identifies the block. Then we have the text, which is the text of the block. We also have a block type, which is in this case unstyled, but we could later on, if we want to customize our editors more, we can define different block types, and based on that do some custom rendering. So, but for now we have the unstyled because it's just a plain text block. So of course there was no like rich text editing features yet, so we need to add them in it. And Draft.js comes with this rich utils module, which is a set of utility functions that help you handling the common rich text editing key bindings, for example. So if you want to do a bold text, you can press like Command B on your keyboard and you get the text as bold, or Command U for underline. So that kind of stuff is handled by rich utils automatically. So let's see how we can add that to our editor. It's quite straightforward. We first import the rich utils module. Then we need to add the handle key command handler for the editor. So whenever the key command is pressed, the handler is called. And here is the definition for that. In this specific case, the handle key command function. So it gets a command as a parameter, and it's a string. For example, if you pressed Command B or Control B, the command would be bold, or Command U for it would be underline. First we take the current editor state, then we create a new state out of it with this rich utils handle key command function, which we provide the editor state and the command. And that takes care of all the implementing all the styles for that editor state. So if there was a specific selection and we pressed Command U, it would handle the underlining for that selection. And then we just passed the new state for the onChange handler. And now we have this, now our editor looks like this. So in this part, I would press Command B or Control B for bold. We get the bold text, and then, oops, Command B, and last is, I think it was Command U for underline. Yeah, so this is how we can do that. And here is the state for that editor. So now we have only one block because we had only one block of text. We have the text in there as a plain text, and then we have this inline style ranges array, which defines now how to style that text. So as we can see here, the first object of that array, we can see that from the 6th character, the next 2 should be a style of bold. And here from the 9th character, the next 5 characters should be style of underline. So this is how Draft.js handles that kind of inline styling. There is also other customization properties. Block style FN applies style for blocks. So as I said, you can have a custom block types. So with this you could apply, for example, if you have block type of large heading, you could add some own styles for it, maybe big font size or something. And then there is block render map, which maps block types to HTML elements. So Draft comes with the default block render map. So there is some block types already mapped for different HTML elements. For example, header-1 is H1, header-2 is H2, and so on. But if you need to override these HTML elements, or you want to define your own, you can use that to do so. Then there is block render function. This is quite cool because it enables you to render custom components for specific block types. So take, for example, you have a block type of sticker, and you have this sticker component that you want to render. You can do it with the block render function, that every time there is a block type of sticker, you can render the sticker component with the data from that block. And then there is also custom style map, which adds custom inline styles for specific character ranges. So take, for example, last example we had these styles underline and bold. We could, for example, define style of strike through. And with the custom style map, we can do that so that the block type, the style strike through would have inline style of text decoration line through. And that's how we get the strike through style to our editor. But yeah, these are more complicated and require a bit learning and more work to implement. And it's not necessary to do all this manually, and there is easier way to do this even if you don't know about these specifically. And that's where Draft.js plugins come in. So Draft.js plugins is a set of plugins that can be applied to Draft.js editor, and the plugins work out of the box then. The only thing there is that in order to use the Draft.js plugins, you need to use the editor component from the Draft.js plugins library. So it's basically a wrapper component only for the Draft.js editor, with the difference that you can pass in the plugins. So there is nothing else different from it. So let's look. Here is a screenshot of their website. They have quite a few plugins. As you can see, there is a mention, emoji, image, video, sticker, hashtag, inline side and static toolbar plugins, undo, counter, anchor, linkify, focus, alignment, resizable, drag and drop, and divider plugins. So quite a lot of plugins that you can use, and many of them are things that you need to implement in your project are commonly used features. So let's look a few of them, how they work. So first, the static toolbar plugin. So this is what it looks like. You get this toolbar on the bottom, and you can use that to customize your text inside the editor. And these are just the default buttons for this plugin, and you can customize it to have like a whole lot more buttons, all the rich text buttons that you can imagine. And this is how we would use it. First, now we need to import the editor component from the Draft.js plugins editor. And then we import the plugin itself. Then we create the plugin out of it and also take the toolbar component out of the plugin. And here we pass in the plugins for the editor, and as you can see, it's an array of plugins, so you can pass in multiple plugins for the editor, but in this case we have only one, so we are passing the static toolbar plugin. Then we have the toolbar component itself. We render it after the editor, and that's how you get the toolbar under there. And here is just for comparison how the state would look like in this case. So we did basically the same thing with key bindings earlier. So now we have the text, then we have the inline style ranges there, and from there we can see that there is a style of italic for those characters, and that character range we have the style of underline. Then there is emoji plugin, which basically gives you emojis out of the box for your editor. You can add them by typing colon and emoji name, or you can press the emoji button and select from the list which emojis you want to add to your editor. And here is how you would use that. So again, we import the editor, then the emoji plugin itself. Then we create the emoji plugin out of it, and now we import also emoji suggestions and emoji select from the emoji plugin. So the emoji suggestions is the drop-down that you saw when you typed in the colon and the emoji name, and the emoji select is the button and the little window that opens where you can choose from all the emojis. And here we again pass in the emoji plugin for the editor and render the emoji suggestions and emoji select. And last, probably my favorite, and I think it's their most used plugin, is the mentions plugin, which basically gives you @ mentions out of the box. So you just type in @ and the person's name, and you get the mentions added to your editor. And again, here is how you would do that. So you import the mention plugin, and then the mentions are just a list of user objects. You can customize which fields from those objects the mention plugin uses. For example, if you want to show email when you type in the name, if you want to show email there, you can, or first name, last name. You can customize all that. And then we create the emoji plugin, and now we need to also define onSearch change handler for the plugin, because here we just define how to filter those names when you start typing @ and the person name. There you filter on what basis do you filter. So for example, if you want to take in account the email or just the name or both, you can set it up here. And then we take the mention suggestions out of the plugin, which is the drop-down that opens when you start typing. And then we pass in, again, the mention plugin for the editor, and render the mention suggestions, and pass in there the on-search change handler and the suggestions. And that's all you need to add those mentions that you saw earlier. Yeah, thank you. There is the link for the slides and the code examples. And yeah, thank you for your time, and thank you for having me.
I have one question.
Yep.
How do you implement the view part? Like, you can edit the rich text there, and it outputs that kind of state that actually doesn't have any rich text elements in it. It just has like the declarations how to render these things. Do you have to implement it yourself? Like, okay, let's take this offset and add there some bold tag and do things like that? Or is there like a Vue library that uses, or does that same library apply to Vue also?
Yeah, well, actually they have left the Vue part for the user basically, but there is libraries that can convert the state or the JSON to, for example, HTML. So there is library that you can input the state, the JSON, and it converts it to HTML. And also one way, of course, doing it is initializing an editor and putting it to only read mode.
Okay,
so that's one way.
There's a read-only mode.
Yeah, read-only mode. I'm not sure how efficient that is, but that's a possibility also.
Okay, so questions? More questions? Someone? There.
That worked well. Sorry.
Thank you. Is this the same library that Project Gutenberg is based on? The WordPress new editor? Because
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't know either, but I know that it's React-based editor that they are rolling into WordPress.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know about that, unfortunately. Yeah.
Careful.
Okay. Anyone else want to try their luck with this?
I can ask.
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation, and always good to see people from Seinäjoki and Pohjanmaa. I'm from Ilmajoki, which is basically next to the Seinäjoki. Kinda sad, but anyways. What are the biggest services that use this library?
There is a. I think Facebook uses it still. Like they created it for their own use, and they continue to develop it. So I would probably say that Facebook is the biggest. But there is also, I think it was awesome Draft.js project in GitHub that lists all the bigger services that use this. So you might want to look that up for the other services that use it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? If not, then since this is what I was going to say. So is Philip
somewhere here. Maybe he will want to present Tuomo with his stuff and maybe tell a little bit about what's in the bag. As you might have noticed, Asta got a little bit different black bag since she's from Futurist already, so she has all this stuff at home. But yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rudolf, just because I filled the bag.
Okay.
What do we have? We have if you ever want to go skating with a longboard.
Oh, nice.
A different kind of keep cup. And of course, what you really need is a speaker shirt. Use this speaker, so you know that you were here. And then some random swag, stickers, and really important reflector.
Okay, cool.
You can't go without.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for speaking.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks. So let's have a short 5-minute break.
Siis tästä pitäisi antaa palautetta tälle niinku tän laitteen tekijälle.
Eikö teille magneetilukko unohtuiko vai?
En mä tiedä, miten se toimii.
Se oli alussa laitettu.
Eli se on semmoinen, että magneetti... Eli magneetilukko, eli se menee sisään, niin sit se pitäisi...
En mä kukaan ole koskenut.
Ehkä kannata kuitenkin.
Sausage is casserole.
Good job. Thank you. I hope it was. I was trying to think. Is it like yeah. Now comes as we say in American English, the cleanup hitter.
Sorry?
Wi-Fi password?
It is Friday.
Is it Friday? Why it is?
Is it?
Ah, okay. Is it Friday or it is Friday?
Is it Friday? Kaikki tiedät. Hei, tosi hyvä, mahtavaa.
Joo,
Oletko se kiinnostunut?
Kiitoksia. Että sai tulla. Oli aivan mukava. I promised that there would be beer.
Sitten vaan seuraava puhe.
Joo, täytyy vähän miettiä, että mistähän sitä voisi linjata seuraavaksi. Joo. Toivottavasti nyt tuli sillä niinku sopivasti asiaa. Ja
tosi niinku just silleen, just sopiva tavallaan informaatiota, mutta sitten kuitenkin, että tavallaan sai käyttöä kattavasti läpi. Ja ei varmasti ihmisille silleen niinku hyvä ajatus siitä, että semmoinen juttu on tavallaan olemassa.
Joo, itse vaan muistan, kun ekaa kertaa piti tolleen näin tehdä, niin se oli vähän niin vaikea päästä alkuun, jossa on kaikki pluginit ja sun muut. Niin toivottavasti ne auttaa sitten jotain vähän niin kuin pääsemään. Ei mitään, hienoa.
They get their hook in you.
Mulla on tää esitys kyllä tässä siis, mutta mun piti vaan...
Mä jakaa sulle vaikka täältä... Tuossa on 4G. Mä jakaa sulle 4G.
Tääkö on tää kuuti? Mä sitä kyllä haluan, älä sitä mulle heitä. Älä sitä mulle heitä.
Okay, folks, we'll be continuing real soon. So please make your way to the stage.
Toi on muuten hieno toi paita.
Eiks oo?
Saankohan mäkin sellaisen? Jos mä selviydyn tästä.
Jos sä saat sen taas.
Joo.
Tässä on tämmönen klipsi.
Joo.
Saa oleva klipsi.
Miten tän saa? Tää on vaan niin tiukka. No nyt. Joo.
Pyytämässä. Oot pistänyt ton pois.
There's presentation starting. Please come here.
Okay, now it's okay, for real. First I couldn't find the mute button at all, and now I got it on mute by accident. So anyway, we are heading off to our last talk of the evening, but the night is still young, and after this we'll have some other activities, but you'll hear about those later. First, we'll hear about crowdfunding service from Anna.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Anna. I'm software developer at Gofore. I've been working now 2 years for a German customer. We are building IoT platform. I initially started as a backend developer, but now recently they make me to do some front end as well. But I'm not going to talk about the German customer today. So I'm going to. I was figuring that you might be more interested in beer brewing. So I will talk about beer brewing today. So the agenda is here. So first I will a little bit talk about the background and what this project, this service is about. A little bit about the implementation, how it works, and then a little bit shift to the other side, to the OpenShift. So I will. The service is hosted in OpenShift. So I will give a short demo on the OpenShift platform. So background. So this goes back to 2016. It was bit of accident how I got into this. So this was actually before Gofore times. So the story is such that the administrative director of Pyynikin Panimo contacted my brother, started to discuss that, hey, we are going to have crowdfunding, and we would need this kind of little tool to automate all the, the beer guys. They are not so into working with Excel and Office stuff. So they wanted to. They had the need to automate all this, well, basically everything manual work involved. So it was supposed to be like self-service crowdfunding, including automatic invoicing and tracking, automatic share issue numbers and certificates creation. Also there is a kind of instant money flow to the brewery, because then there would be no second hand, or maybe I should say intermediate hand involved. I will show you later how all this can be actually achieved pretty easily actually. And then for sure they needed some sort of reporting, basically Excel reports on the shareholders. There are there has been actually 4 crowdfunding rounds by far. So initially the story started with Pyynikin, käsityöläispanimo 2016, and then there was another one, second one with Maku Brewing, and then the third one, Craft Park. That wasn't so successful. I didn't even put the figures there, so it didn't really intrigue the investors. So they got just a couple, maybe 2,000 or something. If I say, I don't remember the exact figure, but if I say 2,000, I'm not lying too much. And then the fourth round is again with Pyynikin Panimo. As all the startups, they are always in need for money, so kind of continuous crowdfunding. Then the implementation of this app. So as we initially talked about, the brewery was talking about a little web form, and with little integration to their customer relation management system. I was little bit conscious about this integration. Actually, I'm surprised now when I think about back. So they were actually quite knowledgeable on the brewery, because they really knew that this kind of thing would be possible and actually quite easy to achieve with the integration to their to their current CRM, which is the Visma NetVisor. So it provides a REST API which you can quite easily to integrate with, and it provides actually a lot of the functionality that is needed. So about the other technology, the technologies itself. So it is the implementation. It's a mean stack application. So Node.js backend, Angular.js, yes, the old version still, and then MongoDB. And the Visma NetVisor I already mentioned. It's and then Docker, and then it's all hosted in the OpenShift, Red Hat OpenShift. So those are kind of the technologies in short. So we use Visma NetVisor for the invoicing part. So it actually takes care of the invoices. I will show later on. But just a little bit background, like there is a little bit bureaucracy involved, even though the integration is as such is quite simple, not too much code, but there is a little bit bureaucracy involved. So you need to form, before you can do this kind of integration to your CRM, you need to form kind of partnership with Visma NetVisor, and so that you will get access keys, obviously, to the API. Also then you will get your own demo environment. So your own demo NetVisor, so that you can first start creating your invoices in the demo environment. You don't have to start creating playing with the actual production environment. And then there is another set of keys. So in addition to the kind of partner keys, you need to have the integration keys. They are then created in the actual production environment that you are going to integrate with. The API is REST API, XML based though. The authorization mechanism caused me a little bit headache at the beginning. So there is like 10 different authorization headers, including the kind of the partner ID, public keys, and so on. And then in addition, you need to form this kind of MAC hash, which is calculated over the public keys and the secret keys as well. So that is included as one of the authorization headers. So that's how they can actually recognize who is then sending the requests. When you get it correctly once, then it's of course easy. But it caused me a little bit headache at the beginning. Especially there was not much Node.js examples. They provide some Python examples though, but nothing. I couldn't find anything for Node.js, so had to figure it out. Then how it works. So sorry if the messy pictures, but I will try to explain briefly how it all works. So the investor comes and registers with his email address to the service, and then there is just a simple web form where he can then subscribe to any number of shares. And then what will happen is that the service will create invoice in the NetVisor, and once the invoice is created successfully, then the NetVisor returns the invoice ID and the reference number. We are in particular interested in the invoice ID so that we can track the invoice later on. And the user, the investor, is particularly interested in the reference number because that is the viitenumero that he will then use when he pays the invoice. So the invoice is sent by email to the investor with the reference number. So that is basically it. And then what happens is that there is a nightly job. So the service will check for all the open invoices. It will check the invoice status from the NetVisor, and then of course update if the invoice is paid. Then it will update it in the database so that we are not checking. Of course, we don't have to check anymore. And then for the old paid invoices, then it will roll out the share number and then create and email the certificate. So the share number is simply a running number, and then for the certificate generation, it uses HTML to PDF transformation. So there is a simple HTML template containing the picture, and then the share issue number is printed on the picture. So simple HTML, background picture, and then the text. So this is the magic that automizes the kind of the manual work that would be required for the brewery otherwise. And then one more thing is the reporting part. So the brewery can then download the shareholder list as an Excel file. It uses all SQL to make selection on the JSON document, and then it also supports the export as Excel file. It is done on the front end side, so it is a front end library that is used. Then about the OpenShift part. So I initially, when we started at 2016, it was completely different environment. We were using also OpenShift at that time for hosting, but it was more like a traditional platform as a service at that time. But then the old platform retired 2017, and then it was actually completely rewritten. And the new platform is then container application platform, so meaning that it's for deploying and managing Docker containers. It builds on Kubernetes, which is Google's invention for basically for managing and deploying containers, as said already on the previous bullet. There is also two versions. What I'm talking about is the online version, so the hosted version. But then it's also possible to host it yourself. So it is open source. So you could host the OpenShift yourself, for example, in AWS, or of course in premise. A little bit more about the OpenShift. So there is actually different build strategies. I will talk about more about the I will talk about the image stream strategy. So it means that it will use the Docker image and deploy based on the image stream. But that's not the only option. So there is also source to image translation. So you could also, if you don't want to work with the image streams, so you could also have hosted Git repository, and then the OpenShift would do then the translation for you. So it would create the contain the image and the container for you. And then there is a third one. So there is also you could use JSON-based template, or you could use Dockerfile as your build strategy. There is also image catalog. So there are some existing or built-in the images that are provided in their internal repositories. So there are different applications, databases, frameworks, and middleware that you could just browse from the catalog and deploy. I will show little demo on that later. So, like I said, so I will show the image stream deployment. So there is a picture of the deployment. So there is a Seppo. Seppo is developing on his local environment, and Seppo is using Docker on his machine, and he's building Docker containers, and then he will push the image in Docker Hub, and then it's possible to define the automatic hooks so that it will trigger the OpenShift deployment. So first there will be the image will be transferred in the OpenShift internal registry, and then it will trigger the deployment. And the basic unit, if you are familiar with Kubernetes, so the basic unit of deployment is pod, but it's basically the same as Docker container. So it's also some people talk about this cloud native approach. So if you are aiming at deploying Docker containers, then why not working on the Docker containers in the first place? So the good thing here is that this image is then actually same as the one that we deploy. So there are less surprises on the way. Same thing, of course, if we have different environments, like we have staging, we have development, staging, and production. So if we can actually move the same image then from one environment to another, then there is less surprises. So I will demonstrate, if I can still log in my OpenShift account. So I will demonstrate how the deployment will look like. There are some pre-steps that I have done beforehand. So basically, how to create the image and how to push it in the Docker Hub. I have used this example application, so I could, for example, clone the application from my Bitbucket account, and it is already Dockerized. So there is a Docker file and there is a Docker compose file. So after cloning it, I could just run Docker compose build to build the image. And then what I need to do is I need to tag the image before pushing it in the Docker Hub. So I will find the image ID, and then I say that Docker tag image ID, and then my Docker Hub account slash then the repo and then the version of the image. And then I'll just say Docker push to push the image. Let's have a look. This is the actual application that we are using in the example. It's actually built from tutorial. I have used this for some of my courses when I've been teaching in Stack basically. But I have done small modifications on it. I have Dockerized it as the initial. If you look at the tutorial, it's not Dockerized. So it is a simple mean stack application. I think I had the picture of it. So if we are able to deploy it, it should look something like this. So you can register, you can log in, and then you can post basically web links, and then you can go vote and comment on the links. So this is how it looks like. We could have short look on the Docker file. It's very simple. It's using old Node version. Basically, what it does, it creates the working directory. It copies everything in the working directory. It runs npm install. It exposes port 8080, and then then how to kick it up. So it runs npm run start to start the Node.js app. There is a Docker Compose, but we are not actually interested in that in this example. But if you were running this on your local machine, then you might want to use that. There is one environment variable, so there is Mongo URL that you can set depending on your environment. And then I have also pushed it in the Docker Hub. So there it is, the image built from the previous Docker file. Also reminds me to set the Mongo URL as environment variable. Now let's see if we can do this. Do the deployment. Maybe we will go one more slide, and then we will do the deployment. So there you could also, I will demonstrate the online tool, but there is also a command line tool. So you could also do the deployment using the CLI. So there is this OC, which is OpenShift CLI. You can do pretty much everything with this. You don't need to use SSH if at all probably. So you can use this OC also for accessing your containers. So what we need to do in order to deploy the Flapper News example application. So first we will create new project, let's say Flapper News, and then we will create new application. So it's as simple as OC new app, and then I can give the Docker Hub repo there. And then we will deploy another application, which is now Mongo image. It's from the internal OpenShift internal image repository, and then we can give, or we need to give the environment variables. We can give them here within the new app command. So Mongo user, Mongo database, Mongo password, and then the admin password. And then after that, we can also pass the Mongo URL to our web app. And then the final is to expose, basically to create root to our application. So I am now in OpenShift. We could have a quick look on the. So there are different subscriptions. So there is a starter one, which is a free plan. It will give you 1 gig of memory, and then there is 1 gig of persistent storage, and then there is this terminating memory. It's also 1 gig. So this is free, but there is also some restrictions, like your application needs to, the usual one that your application needs to go to sleep for certain period. I think every it needs to. I don't remember the exact figures how many hours it needs to sleep a day, but anyways, it's not for any kind of real use cases, but for experimenting, it's good enough. So create a project. It was the first one. I will create a project called News. Is it still alive? Yes. So there it is, my empty project. Now we can use the catalog to find the Mongo image. So I will look for databases, but as you can see, so there is. I told that there are lots of applications, databases, middleware, and so on, which you could just instantly deploy based on what's available here. But I will now go search for databases. So there is Mongo, MySQL, Postgres, MariaDB. But for our application, we will go for MongoDB, and there are some pre-configured. There is memory limit, namespace, database service. We will leave as it is. Mongo connection username, I will use admin. Secret, SampleDB, I will leave it as my database name. Secret. I will change the database version. I will use the old one because my app is also a little bit oldish, and I have tested with 2.4. I know it works with 2.4. Oops. It went already. I didn't see the summary page. So it will show on the summary page. You can see the connection URL, but let's see if we can still find it. I might actually even have it somewhere. It is a little bit slow, but now our MongoDB is being deployed. It's still running, one replica. Let's see if there is any logs available, what is happening. It says that it's scaling to 1 pod. That looks good. Successful, so it has at least successfully created the pod for us. But it's still not showing here that it was ready. For some reason. How much time do we have to wait? I think we could go and have a look the deployment of the web app. Even though our database may not be ready yet, so we may not be able to connect to that. And then let's go to the deployment of the web app. So I will use now the image that I have in the Docker Hub. It was my account Flapper News and latest. And then we go for searching. Did you take my internet away? No. Why is it so slow? Okay, but it's so that easy it is actually to deploy the if it was working then it. But okay, so deployment from the image. I just type my Docker Hub image here, and then I go search for, and it has found it. It's actually now complaining me that I'm running the container as root, which I'm actually not. I don't know if it's just always complaining. Only thing that we need to define here was the database URL. So it was Mongo URL, and now we need to memorize, was it MongoDB? How is it? Who remembers? No, it's admin secret, but it's not like this. I was too fast. How was it? Let's check. Sample DB, and then this is MongoDB. I think it's like this. and then just deploy. It looks like we don't have connection to the database. It seems that the demo was not quite successful. So this is actually crashing. The bot is crashing, and as well is the MongoDB. That's live. I was going to tell you how cool this OpenShift is, and I'm actually like it, but I'm also studying AWS at the moment, so I think I will show you one more thing. So you can quite easily create those routes to your application. So we could create route to our application, let's say Flapper, and then we could choose using HTTPS and directing from the insecure port to the secure one, and create. So this is actually quite easy to create routes to your application. Also, there is different kind of monitoring options. So you could monitor the storage, different, also CPU and that kind of things. Do you have some question on the OpenShift?
If somebody wants to try the soft cube of death.
Yes.
There, okay. Here goes nothing.
Good. So can you go back one slide to create image? So this is done manually, right? You have to type this in the command line.
Yes.
So what if you have to, so let's say you have this already deployed to the Docker registry,
yes,
and you have done some new changes to your UI code. Do you need to do this? Do you need to do this all over again?
This you need to do, but so what I didn't show in the so successful demo is that then you could also define these webhooks, so that whenever you push, this you need to do manually, which was the slide. But then what happens after that? So you can automate the build based on the image change.
So my thinking is that since we are talking about automation here, I think also pushing the image into the Docker registry can also be automated. Because, yeah, for example, you can use like a lot of CI toolings like Jenkins or Travis to automate everything, so you don't need to do all the script all over again. So that's one of my suggestions you can do.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think of that. I mean, it's the same as pushing your code in GitLab or Bitbucket.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you have all those things set up, you can just push the code and all the image will be pushed to the registry, and then the their Kubernetes will run your Docker image on their, for example, in their OpenShift. As I've noticed that you also have the Jenkins tool in OpenShift web console over there.
Yes.
So you can actually utilize it and forget about order scripting by typing it manually.
But it's only this command. So
well,
I'm not sure if it's third automatizing. It's the same as pushing your code in GitLab.
Okay, let's take one more. We have one more. If not, then thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And Rudolf, do you want to do the honors?
There you go. The content is quite the same as what Tuomo got.
Thank you.
But a bit smaller.
Ah.
Thank you.
It's custom made.
It's perfect size. It should be.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, let's give the floor to Leo.
I can take this one. Hey, sorry to keep you sitting there. I just want to have some feedback from you guys. I just have one URL. Please take your phones. This is really short. I just hope you all can answer some feedback. We have. I'll find some text editor to show you the URL. It's somewhere here. Just a second. Here. bit.do/EDS18. Can you go there?
It's getting closer.
Please, can you fill it? Fill the survey. Whoa. Magnetic. That one. So it will look like, hopefully this opens, and it will look like this. So there's just a couple of questions like how was the presentations, how was the beer, how was the food, and also this is very important for us. Could your company sponsor us in the future? Please name the company, and also if you answered something there, please leave some kind of contact details. And if you have something else to say anonymously or any ways you like, you can tell it there. After you answered here, the party continues, and we might have some nice Halloween quiz later on. I'm not sure, depends how many people still wants to hang out with us. But if you want to participate, you can prepare a team for you. It's just 5 questions and awesome prizes.
Yeah, one thing, we had one very some action on the live stream, and somebody was actually, I think, really impressed with Draft.js while Tuomo was talking, because he commented on the live stream that his React plugins explode from delight. But yeah, that's it for us, I think. Thanks a lot to all our presentators, and a huge, huge thank you to Rudolf and Futurist for being such great hosts, buying for all these magnificent swag and everything. So yeah, let's have fun. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Jätetäänkö toi tämäksi aikaa vai?
Joo, jätetään.